What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning The Dr. Vibe Show. As always, I'd like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. Know that The Dr. Vibe Show is the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations. Also know that I am a certified empowerment coach and president of Express Your Vibe Coaching and Communications. Thanks very much for everyone catching us live today on Tuesday afternoon in the East, but later on in the afternoon in London. So why are we here today? Well, we're always here to advance core things. And one of the core things that the Dr. Vibe Show is all about, not only Epic Conversations, is helping men any way we can become better men. So I just want to read a little something before we get into the crusts of our conversation. Outdated masculine stereotypes damage everyone. So this organization is doing something about it through diverse stories of how humanity is more important than terms like, quote, man up, unquote. Being Mankind, Volume 1 is a collection of inspiring stories told by men from all walks of life. Each is an honest account of their experiences ranging from the ordinary to the extraordinary. From one man's use of comedy to break the stigma around anorexia, to a paratrooper who lost his legs on the battlefield and now rose for Great Britain. They offer an opportunity for boys to draw on a diversity of experiences to decide for themselves what it means to be a man. This book wants to show you that once you get past the polarized gender expectations, you find that not only unbreakable code in the humanity is kindness. The idea is that through the stories told, boys and men will be inspired to forge forward as kind and confident individuals, both for themselves and for those around them, allowing everybody to succeed together. So we are blessed and highly favored today to have Darshan Saranga on the line with us
Hello.
from London, England. We had a chance to do some conversing online, and I'm always passionate about helping men any way that I can, men and those who love them any way that I can. So we have him online today. We're very happy to have him because he's a very positive, productive guy. He even had to move offices before we got ready to make this happen today. So, Darshan, thank you so much for sharing some of your positive, productive time. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Outstanding, blessed, and highly favored. Excited to have this conversation with you, as we like to do with all new friends that come on the Dr. Vibe Show. Can you give a little background about yourself?
Sure. I run a company where we use product design for social good, and one of our products is Being Mankind. We've created this project and this book, if you guys can see it, and we've created it to help help people understand, help men understand that being a good human is so possible and so important, and they don't have to be trapped by this kind of gender stereotype of terms like manning up. They can be themselves, they can be individuals, they can be empathetic, they can be kind, they can get through things, they can fight for things, they can be the best they can be, but as individuals, not as one homogeneous unit, which is man. So for us, there are 40 stories in this book. Each one of them, like you said, ranges from the extraordinary to the ordinary, and it's all relatable. You know, there's stories of all sorts of people in there. And Anthony Joshua, the world heavyweight boxing champion, has written the foreword for it, which is pretty special for us because he wrote it last year before his fight the other week. And our aim here is that for each book that you buy, we donate one to a school that we work with, and we work with young kids, especially boys, to help them understand this message so they have a healthier relationship with themselves and those around them. And we think if we can do that at an early age, then when they grow up, just imagine how the world could become. And that's our big vision. So that's the quick background of myself and the project. And the book, like I said, another plug, is a beautiful hardback book with 40 stories, over 140 pages, and it's produced by my incredible team, co-producers Jenny and Priya. Bees designed it, Joe edited it, and overall it's been a real passion project to make sure that we do something that's worthwhile, that will stand future generations in good
Excellent.
in a good place.
Excellent. Let's see if we can get some information from you and sharing some. What has your manhood journey been like?
Oh, it's an interesting one. So I mean, I grew up in an Indian family, and if anything, gender stereotypes are even bigger in the Asian community. It's kind of
Yes.
like, man does, woman cooks, and it's not that's not how real life works. And but luckily, I have incredible parents who kind of allowed me to be an individual and nurtured me to do that. So my mum was a photographer and an actress when she was younger. My dad uh, worked in business, um, and my mum's now a care worker. My dad is now not very well, so he's at home. And so it's been a journey. I have a younger brother who's 2 years younger than me. So, I was able to shun that typical kind of man up thing. I was able to be who I am, thanks to my parents, really. Um, so I've been lucky in that sense. And I think much of my interactions with kind of the social impact world, etc., comes from that background. I'm a firm believer with the people you surround yourself make you who you are. Um, I don't know how you feel about that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
As I was just sharing with our wonderful friend, new friend, a few days ago, I celebrated my dad's birthday. And one of the things that I shared in the last speech, I had the responsibility of making the last speech of the night.
yeah,
And one of the things I put out there is that my dad gave me the same name that he has.
all right.
And I didn't realize how important that is until the last number of years that he put that to carry on his legacy.
That's incredible.
So that's very, very important, and I fully understand where you're coming from. And your background growing up, same like mine. I had two professional parents too, so I can fully relate in what you're sharing with me. I just want, before we go any further, just want to shout out to one of the close Dr. Vibe friends, Tachi from Florida. Thank you so much for stopping in. She is an incredible resource when it comes to media and culture. So definitely catch out her show called Mediascope Monday, no, not Monday, Wednesday evenings at 6 p.m. on Periscope. And Tachi, please feel free if you have any questions to ask. I want to get back to our conversation and transform it to the company you started. Then how did you get into doing this project? So if we can get some background on your company
Sure.
and the
Yeah,
background there, and we can take it to there.
sure. So my company is called Super Being Labs, and like I said, we use product design for social good. And we tackle all sorts of things from homelessness to healthcare, to things like this, to sexual violence, dealing with that. It's a broad spectrum. We're looking at humans basically and saying how can we make humans the best they can be. Um, and this project came about from we work with a lot of young people, especially for youth unemployment and youth empowerment. And I was talking to a friend and a client, and he has two young kids. And we were both talking about how there's a complete lack of positive male role models in the public eye for young people. Now, don't get me wrong, there are loads of people out there that are brilliantly positive, but in the media itself, we don't really hear about them. We always see that sort of one type of person, one type of man, one type of human, and therefore for young people, it must be really, really difficult to sort of navigate this world that's fast moving. If we see what's happening in America, we see what's happening across Europe. The world is changing really, really quickly. And how do we help these young people navigate this in a way that's not only profoundly healthy for them, but those around them? So we just started thinking, well, let's not make anything preachy because we don't want a website where we tell everyone this is how you behave, or a media piece which tells everyone how to behave. Why don't we look at profiling men from a diverse background and let them tell their stories, create a vehicle where they can tell their stories, where we don't step in the way, we don't tell you what to think, you read their stories and you decide what to think. Whether it's someone who's facing disability, someone who is a man who's having to deal with IVF treatment, a man who's got depression, a man who's had problems with uh, anyone in their life in a relationship. We don't want to preach. read the story and let it resonate with you. And whatever it does to speak to you, that's great. That's all that needs to happen. Because we're big believers that stories open minds in a way that nothing else can. It's really hard for anyone to listen to a story and not feel something. You have to be very special to not feel anything. And sometimes even hearing one thing or feeling one thing can trigger a train of thought that helps you understand people more and helps you understand yourself. And we found this with this book. We printed the first run of this last year, and we've had this one guy, this amazing guy, who keeps buying the books. And he used to work in banking, and he keeps buying them to give to his friends in banking. And when you think about Wall Street, you think of your archetypal kind of 1980s man in a suit, greed and fear, and just go, 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 go. But not everyone in Wall Street's like that. And even if they are, just by reading this, it opens their mind. So that's where the whole idea came from. How do we create a vehicle which isn't preachy, which doesn't tell anyone how to think, and just gives them a stimulus to understand other people and therefore understand themselves?
Excellent.
And the project was born.
Wonderful. Who was the first person you shared this idea with, and what was their reaction?
I think the first person I shared the reaction was actually my girlfriend. I said to her, "This is what we're doing," and I think she's very, very supportive. She's actually one of the co-producers of the book. She's a photographer, so you can check out the photography on beingmankind.org. And she was really supportive of this. And what was interesting is she's an optometrist by practice, and she decided to almost give up her job and join the project.
Wow.
So she was really on board. She still works 1 day a week as an optometrist, but for 4 days a week, she's working on this project. And then one of my oldest friends, Jenny, I met with her and I was like, okay, cool. Well, we're doing this project. Do you want to work on it? And she thought it was a great idea, so she jumped on board as well. And then Joe was actually a former client who decided to join us as well and edit the book for us. And B's one of my closest friends. He actually is our head of product here. He decided to design the book. And there was other people involved as well, but it was like anyone that we spoke to, they really understood what we were trying to do. Initially, we were skeptical about calling it Being Mankind because they say never judge a book by its cover, but to the wrong crowd, it could feel like we're just making men look great. But actually, that's not the idea. It was purposely called that to help break that cycle of being a man, of just the general term of being a man, the old school Marlboro man from the 70s, 80s, that kind of perhaps has a hard time opening up about things, perhaps has a hard time empathizing with things. I don't know many men like that, and yet that's the picture that all these kids kind of think of. They think, especially in London, there's a lot of knife crime, and you see kids dying frequently, and you just think, what is going on? Like, who are the role models that these kids have that are inspiring them to go to the streets and die? That's not cool. And that is, we have a responsibility to do this sort of project. So anyone we spoke to got it straight away. And the only people that didn't were the people that don't quite still understand that this whole outdated masculinity thing harms everyone. They still don't get that, but they will. It's a journey. We found that the people that are most dogmatic, the most kind of, this isn't needed, come around when they have their own experience. When they have someone that they love and care for going through a struggle, or when they see the negative fallout of being stereotyped by your gender.
Excellent.
Yep.
How did you choose the individuals for this book, and what it sounded like it was a lot of work, and obviously there was filtering, and were there any men who said no?
Yeah, so I think Jenny and Priya and everyone went out, but Jenny and Priya did pretty much all the work on finding the men. I think it started off kind of slow. We in the initial instance we struggled a bit We had a friend write up a protocol on what kind of person we should be looking for and where we should be looking for them. And we went down that route, but eventually, like with a lot of hard work and explaining it, it became much easier to explain what we were doing once we had a few stories. Because no one likes to get involved into a vacuum, right? No one likes to get into the unknown. And once you have a few, they become the guiding light of what this project's about. So it became much easier. And I think it was a comedy. There was a lot of comedy in it. I think we ended up looking for people, like actively just opening our eyes anywhere. We were on a bus, we'd find someone. Uh, we were in a shop, we'd find someone. And it was funny to watch Jenny running around, just constantly chasing people on the street to be like, "You've got a story. Tell us your story." Um, and in the end, we had so many stories, but unfortunately, we could only print 40 of them because of the size of the book.
Okay.
Um, so this book is not the first version. There'll be a volume two,
That's what I was
which will
gonna
be
ask. Yeah, I
yeah,
had to turn
yeah,
away people.
yeah. So there'll be volume two. Now, a lot of people say sort of, why didn't we just opt for a website? The thing with that is, if we put stories up on a website, they resonate, but they're too transient. It's easy to be distracted by the web. You're reading something, something pops up on Facebook, you're distracted. It's much harder to be distracted when you have this thing in front of you and it's a beautiful book that's on your coffee table. It's you want to delve into it. So there'll be a volume two, which will be bringing in even more diverse men and their stories, and volume two will be split into two parts: a one for 12 teenagers and up, teenagers and any man of any age, of any gender, and then the kids one will be written by teenagers for elementary school kids.
Let me
Um,
go ahead.
yeah,
Let me
yeah.
just ask. With now, I haven't had a chance to get into the book. Got to get one. That the fact is, were all the men based in the Great Britain area?
No, I think we've even got a man from Iceland.
Oh
Um,
wow.
yeah, we have men from all over. Now, we have stories from Cambodia,
Wow.
Iceland, the US. We have stories from all over. Now, of course, because we're based in the UK, we have more stories from Great Britain. But in volume two, we want to take it international for sure. So if any of your listeners are listening in and they have a story to tell, yeah, I mean, there you are. Please do get in touch. Like I said, go to beingmankind.org. All the details are on there. There's a form you can fill in, tell us your story. We'll come back to you. When you look at the photography, it is beautiful photography. And so each story takes between 2 to 5 days to produce.
Wow.
Overall, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
You know, you have to. You asked if anyone said no to their stories. Yes, in some cases, people were like, "I really want to tell the story, but I'm not ready to tell it yet." Um, Sometimes people would tell their story, but when we were editing it, they changed their mind, and that's fine as well. One day they'll come back with them. Um, but yeah, it's kind of there's definitely volume two. So the more stories, the better.
Was there any challenges in the production phase of this book?
Oh wow. Where do we start?
Well, yeah,
Where?
because it's important because a lot of people just look at the end result, but they don't want to
Yeah.
go through the challenges to get there.
Where do we start? I think, initially getting the stories was hard enough, and then it became easier. But then when we started producing the book itself, when we tried printing it, that was the most difficult thing. It's really hard to show you from here, but this front cover is a really special paper, and people keep feeling it because it feels great. And the side is actually this fine cloth. I don't know if that's showing on your screen. It's actually a cloth. You can see the pictures better on the website. So every little facet of it was a specialist material, because our design principles, people had to want to pick this up and own it. So getting it printed was really difficult. We had an initial printer who ended up not having the paper we needed. Then we had another printer that ran away with our money.
Oh
Um,
my
yeah,
good. What?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So we were meant to launch. So actually, we managed to do the whole thing in 6 months, but then it took 6 months to print it. So in April last year, we went to the second printer, and he was meant to deliver this by June. Sat in the front of the audience of the kids, and he's got false legs, and he turned the legs around and he looked at the bully, but didn't say a word. He just said, "Would you find this funny?" kind of thing.
Wow.
Uh, and the kid was in awe at this former soldier. These are people that have lived and do more stuff. And I'm sure we could go back to them and showcase their stories again a year down the line, which we will do. Um, and there's other stories about a guy called Nadan who is from Cambodia. He's in a wheelchair, and he talks about how he became a dancer. So he joined a professional dancing group, but he found his way through his experiences. There's a story of a guy there called Dave Chawner who has an eating disorder, and he's actually touring the country, the UK, using comedy to help uh, raise awareness around the fact that men can have eating disorders, and it is an
Wow.
illness that needs
Good
to be talked
stuff.
about.
I also want to
Yeah.
touch up a little the story about Janai.
Oh yeah.
And I love the title, the simple title of Know Thyself.
Yeah.
Simple and deep.
Yeah. It's Janai is an interesting character. So he talks a lot about living with his mum. He doesn't live with his dad. He talks about his relationship with his mum, his relationship with himself. His mum's from Brazil. Um, he does capoeira, but also he talks about kind of navigating this world where he's living with his mum, but he's also at school. He's got peer pressure from his friends who want to fight, want to get up to all sorts of trouble. And the whole story, Know Thyself, is more about him understanding that actually there is comfort and peace in knowing who you are and being confident in that. And that's powerful when you're able to stand up to people and say, do you know what? I am who I am, and you uh, you should also be who you are, and move away from that. So it's kind of him being truthfully honest about his problems at school, his problems at home, his the situations he got himself into at school, the and also how with his relationship with his mum and his father, how he wants to grow up to have a healthy relationship with his son or daughter
Nice.
when he's a dad, and he is a dad now. So he's actually a dad after the book was printed, and that's incredible as well. And that story is actually a message to younger people who have similar situations where they could have a parent that they don't live with, or a fractured relationship with a parent that loves them but actually comes from a different environment. And at the same time, they're not trying to navigate that youth, that that teenage years where they're trying to find themselves, but in an environment at school where everyone is telling them what to think and what to do and how to behave and how to act. And his story is incredible in telling you the truth behind that. It's not easy, but
No,
you
it
have to
isn't.
do it.
Well, I say to a lot of people, especially to ladies, I say it's not easy being a man.
No, it's funny. So, um, a couple of years ago, Priya and I were on a plane, and we were flying back from Peru, via Ecuador, and this guy wrote Priya a note. When we landed at Heathrow, she found a note on her table, and it said, "Hey, do you want to go for coffee?" And he just walked off. He hadn't asked her for coffee, and she put it up on Facebook, and the amount of messages were like, "Oh, you know, did you fight him? Did you beat him up? Did you have a go at him?" And I'm like, "No, because I have faith in my girlfriend, and she can handle herself. Trust me. She does capoeira as well. And you know what? The guy didn't know we were together, and these things happen. But you have to really question yourself. And I remember speaking to someone about this, and they were like, "You need to man up." And I thought, what does that even mean? Like, what do you want me to do? I didn't know the guy had left a note. I didn't know that this required me to threaten him. I didn't require that I needed to protect Priya from being her own person and actually dealing with it maturely herself. He'd left a note. He hadn't come up to her and talked to her. And people will deal with that in different ways, but I just thought it was interesting that I was being told to man up. And I just thought, what's more mature? And I always find that interesting as well when in the term man up, you think about Martin Luther King, Gandhi, all these people, and people revere them as kind of peace activists, impact by peace, like, this non-violence movement. And yet you would never go to Martin Luther King and say, man up. Like you would never say man up. And yet in the real world we have this thing of like we're so easy to push a trigger to go to war or to start a fight or to harm someone when we're actually what happened to just talking to people and maturely understanding them and working out what the issue is. And that I find so interesting that we default back to this kind of old age caveman type mentality where I'm bigger than you. It's such a weird thing. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, it makes sense.
Yeah,
We instead of moving forward, we move backwards. We
that's
refer
right.
that's it's a clash. It's a real
That's right.
clash. Let me ask, how has this journey, the Being Mankind Volume 1, affected your manhood?
Uh, um, I think in my sense, if anything, it's given me more of a vehicle to kind of talk about what I think. Um, it's definitely helped me understand that we're on the right track, that we don't have to conform. Um, so it's reinforced it actually. I never went into it worrying about saying the right thing or doing the right thing by others, like in the sense that, some people would disagree with what we're doing, etc. I went into it with really good intentions and still have them. So if anything, it's reinforced that I can be me. Um, and actually, what it's done is helped me meet incredible people from all backgrounds, all genders, etc. You've got some listeners right now. I've just met you. I today I had a really cool coffee with a woman called Fabs who works for a bank in 8 in the morning UK time, and she was just so enthusiastic about what we're trying to do. Uh, so if anything, it's not changed my concept of manhood. It's actually reinforced my concept of what an individual should be.
Excellent. Have you did you find out anything about manhood that you didn't know before this project started?
Oh, yes. How many issues people are dealing with? I think it's so easy to bracket it as um, we need to tackle outdated masculinity to tackle mental health issues and gender discrimination and sexual violence issues, but we forget about everything in the middle. There are so many different variances and issues that people are dealing with. I mean, the story on IVF treatment, that's a great example of a man, you know, not a problem to me, but and his journey of like how, as a man, you deal with this thing where, you're supposed to reproduce. That's what everyone expects, and then suddenly you can't. Ha- that's something that no one ever talks about. I don't know many people that even know what IVF is, let alone talk about it. I've yet to hear anyone talk about it uh, openly and freely as a man. Um, so I think
We
this
have
project highlighted.
we've been
Yeah,
blessed. We've had that conversation of it's almost 2 years ago, talking about how does a man handle not being able to reproduce.
yeah. It's such a weird one where you're like, well, I'm supposed to, but I can't. What do I do now? Like how do I tell everyone that it's me? I can't do anything, and it's having the courage to say, do you know what? It's science. It is what it is. Like it does. I cannot, and so therefore I'm doing something about it. But it's fine. Let's talk about it. So I think it's shown that, and volume two will be interesting on that aspect of how how the stories will be even more diverse because there are things that people born as a man are dealing with that we don't even know about because they don't talk about it, but now they will.
Excellent. How has the reaction been to the book, and have anything you want to share about the initial reactions to the book so far?
I think the reaction to the book has been actually really, really positive. I think when the first time people see it, they realize how beautiful it is. So the first thing people do is kind of go, "Hey, this is amazing," before they've even read it. I think once they read it, it's even better. So, like I said, the guy that keeps buying the books, I think when he first bought it, he thought it was some kind of nice social impact charity type thing. But then when he read it, he was like, wow, actually, this is brilliant. Like, these are really powerful stories. So, people have cried, people have laughed, people have, you know, really questioned things about themselves. So far, we haven't had anyone reply to us and sort of say, this is absolutely not worth buying.
Right.
Um, it's been the absolute opposite of how positive people are, and anything, people want volume two now as well.
Excellent.
People want to see the movie. So that's why we're raising funding on Kickstarter, because if we can print more, then we can get out to more people. We can fund the schools programs for free. Like I said, we've got 5 days left on that Kickstarter, probably three by the time this comes out. Um, if we get a rush of people on it, we can make this happen.
What sort of responses have you had from women compared to men?
Oh, incredible. I think, a lot of women have been so supportive of this because they invariably they recognize why we're doing this. We're a small group of feminists who understand equality is really important, and they understand that what we're doing is actually tackling the side of the coin that needs to be tackled. There's no point having all these incredible initiatives to empower women if actually we're not making men into individuals who have healthier relationships with those around them and themselves, because then you're just creating this bipolar situation where where everyone is doing one thing and then everyone else is getting confused by what's happening over here. So I think we've had some amazing responses. We've had one women in leadership group kind of invite us on Friday to present at their conference because they understand how important this is for diversity and inclusion efforts in companies. We've had partner organizations who understand how important this is to solve all kinds of issues that women have, that sometimes are derived from what outdated masculinity creates. Um, so we've had an incredible reaction from women, and like I said, Jenny and Priya are the co-producers of the book. And the reason that we had a balanced group was because we didn't want this whole project being led from a man's perspective. It had to be a balanced perspective. It'll be interesting to do an experiment to see how this book would have differed if I just done it by myself, to see what kind of stories will be in there. I think having the two of them lead on that production has been really important for us.
Excellent. Well,
Um,
well, go ahead.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
Go ahead. Anything? Sorry if I interrupted you there.
No, 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 at all. That's it, really. Yeah.
Good. Well, I know the time has run out because I know you're in the middle of your Kickstarter campaign. So just a few quick things before we ask you. We ask you that you gotta go because I know you got things to do. Any final words? Any messages you have for men and those who love them out there?
Yeah, my big thing is for those that love men, encourage them to be individuals, encourage them to be human and empathetic and kind to themselves and others. Really celebrate that. And if you are a man, hey, just be confident in who you are. As long as you're decent, um, be who you are and don't be shy about it. And most importantly, help other people around you to be who they are as well. Peer pressure can be a really difficult thing in male groups. Um, we need to kind of break away from that. And final thing is go to Kickstarter and back us. Get our book, read it. The quickest way to do it on Being Mankind. That's on our Twitter handle @beingmankind, or just go to beingmankind.org and you can click on the Kickstarter from the homepage. I'd love you all to do that and support us, because if we can get this global, we can tell so many fabulous stories and show how the role models that we see in the media are not the everyday person. There's so many brilliant people out there. Let's get them out there and get them in front of people so everyone has the courage to be themselves. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, Darshan, thank you so much for taking time out of your positive, productive schedule. Big hail up to your team doing an outstanding job. All the contact information was listed on the post promoting this conversation. Also, will be posted on the information we use to do the replay. It'll be up fairly quick because they have a campaign, and the best way we can help their campaign, other than having them on the show live, is putting the replay up. So it encourages you to purchase the book. I like to say I'm Dr. Vibe, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show, the home of epic conversations, and also the host of epic conversations. If you want to touch base with me, the three best ways are Twitter at DRVIBESHOW. Email is dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. Website address www.thedrvibeshow.com. Oh, one other, right? Tashi says, thank you so much for a great interview. So she hails out there, Tashi from Florida. Also, I'm a certified empowerment coach, so if you would like a complimentary 30-minute session, please get in contact with me. If you want to catch any of the replays of my conversations, you can go to my website. There are other places like the Goodman Project, WJMS Radio. I think it's called Apple Podcasts now. And also there is Tuned In Radio, iHeartRadio, other places out there. And you can go to your favorite search engine, put in the Dr. Vibe Show. That's DR.SHOW show. I'm Googleicious, so you'll get everything you need in regards to listening and contact information. As always, I like to say you're blessed and highly favored. You're a magnet for miracles, and you're a solution for someone's problem. And as always, I like to say God bless, peace be well, keep the faith. Thanks, Tachi, for watching live. Thanks for everyone for watching on the replay. Remember, sometimes you have to get smaller to get stronger. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.